What's going on, guys? PXCam20 back in with a brand new video. We are here at one of my favorite circuit of Suzuka circuit in our Audi TT. Can we do anything here since we are starting in second place right behind the Colombian? Haven't been able to get a win here on this racetrack for the week, but maybe we can change our luck here on this video as we do have 3 races that we're going to be attempting to get a win on. Can we do it? Let's find out. Before we jump into it though, if you guys really enjoyed the content, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video as it really helps out the channel when you guys do so. Anyways, that is enough promoting myself. Let's jump straight into these races. Jumping into our first race now, we get our 3-2-1 as we are starting in second place. Coming out of the final corner, we're crossing the start finish line as we start right behind the Colombian, heading down the straight for the first time. We're going to stay in the slipstream right here as we head into turn number 1, brake right before the 50-meter board, try to clip both of our apexes as well as we can as we go very wide, get a very late apex going to the second part of the corner, and we're able to hold our position here as we head into turn number 1 without any incidents, as a lot of people end up going wide on the very first time going into that corner just because the tires are brand new, they're fresh to cold. And it's very easy just to go wide, clip that green AstroTurf on the left hand side, and accidentally spin out. But fortunately for us, we're staying in second place as we are still right behind the Colombian, but we didn't make up any time. If anything, we lost time as we are now heading into the first time to Degner 1 and Degner 2. Spotting our braking point right before the 50-meter board, clip our apex, just cut the corner ever so slightly, and cut it right there on Degner 2 there, as we were staying right behind the Colombian once again. Breaking away a little bit from the Canadian, starting to turn into a 2-lap race as we clip the inside curb a little too dangerously there. Almost get the grass and spin ourselves out, but we were able to keep it on the track and just focus our sights again on the first place driver and see if we can get around him before these 3 laps are over. It is a 3-lap race. Hard tires are the only ones that are given to us, so no pit stop is recommended here on this race since we don't have any tire wear or any fuel consumption. So can we do anything here by just pushing as hard as we can and basically putting in qualifying laps and see if we can get around this Colombian now as we head down the straight for the second time. Staying on the slipstream, looking for our braking point once again. We clip our first apex pretty well as the Colombian goes a little bit wide. That he was going to run very wide to the left hand side and get loose, but fortunately for him, he was able to keep it on the track, but he did lose a lot of time there as we are now all over his back bumper. But we did invite a Brazilian to our party here as it's now a 3-country race, the Colombian, America, and the Brazilian right behind us. So who's going to win it here as we're halfway through our second lap? Coming out Dunlop curve once again, staying right behind the Colombian. The Brazilian goes a little bit wide, and that's going to hurt him just a little bit. As you can see in the mirror now, he's starting to become a lot smaller from when we first went into Dunlop curve. As we head into Degner 1 and to Degner 2, almost making contact with the Colombian there as he goes very wide. We have to brake very early, and the Brazilian now is all over our back bumper here as we're going to keep an eye on him heading into the hairpin. Going to the hairpin, we keep it onto the inside a little bit, but he sneaks it all the way to the inside, brakes later than us, pushes us out of the way, and now we are side by side with the Brazilian as the Colombian is loving what he's seeing in his rearview mirror since we have to fight side by side down this kind of like a straight, but leads us into spoon curve. Luckily, we were on the inside. We were able to get a better exit from the Brazilian, and we are now re-promoted into second place as we try to set our sights once again on the Colombian and see if we can close that gap that he was able to make after that incident that me and the Brazilian had. So, coming off a spoon curve, we're able to close the gap there now as we jump into lap number 3. Going back into the hairpin once again. Luckily, the Brazilian is not close enough to make an overtake, so we're just going to take our normal racing line, clip the apex, and try to get a really great exit here, but unfortunately we do not, as the Colombian gets a better exit than us, able to stretch his lead down to about 1.3 seconds. So first place is looking out of contention for us, but again, we have to just keep an eye on that Brazilian right behind us. We know that he is very hasty with the trigger, and he can easily try to make an overtake on any of these corners since he did try to force his way down the hairpin. So a very aggressive Brazilian right behind us. Can we hold him off for just half a lap more now as we're heading into the second part of the racetrack? Going down the straight here, the Brazilian gets a really great slipstream on us as we're now heading into 130R. We're keeping it onto the inside, but in doing so, we got to use a lot more braking as we go into the inside. The Brazilian tries to take evasive action, goes very wide, and he actually loses a lot of time on us now as we head into the chicane for the final time. We're able to defend our second place position, but unfortunately we were unable to contend for the win. But we are at least going to come home with a second place and on the podium. So first race done, second place, really good for us. Can we get a win on this second race? Let's find out. Jumping into our second race now, basically deja vu from the first race, as it's basically the same premise. We have the Colombian right ahead of us in first place, and we are starting in second place with a 2:08.7. So getting a 3-2-1, away we go. Immediately getting into the slipstream of the Colombian, as it's very important down the straight to get right behind the slipstream. Making up a little bit of time here as we're able to close the gap to about 0.5 of a second as we head into the first corner. We clip our first apex really well, but the Colombian gets a little bit loose, and you can see how much time he actually loses here as we go into the second corner. And we're able to close up the gap even more now as we head into the S's for the very first time. Nothing really happens for the rest of the lap as we now jump into the end right here, going into 130R for the first time on this race. Clip the apex really well. Try to avoid that green stuff on the right hand side, as that can easily upset the car. We're able to get through it very cleanly, but you can see right behind us we have the American catching back up to us, so we kind of have to focus on him, make sure that he's not trying to make an overtake, but also focus on the Colombian right ahead of us, as he was able to stretch his gap even further now as we head down the straight. And unfortunately for us, we were not close enough to get into the slipstream, but it was good for the American right behind us, because he is now closing the gap up and almost on our rear hand bumper. So kind of the same situation that we were having with the Brazilian the race prior. I am looking on my mirror just to make sure that he is not going to make an overtake, especially going into the hairpin. It seems like that's been a sweet spot for a lot of overtakes this week, especially with these cars. As we head into Dunlop Curve now. Going to Dunlop Curve, doing pretty well here as we were able to just stay with the Colombian. We actually pulled away from the American right behind us. We were able to extend our gap just ever so slightly. But as we head into Degner 2 user right here, I'm seeing that we are actually closing the gap even more on the Colombian. So I don't know where we found those extra tenths, but somehow we pulled them out of our back pocket, and we're able to close the gap now on the Colombian as he takes a very defensive line going into the hairpin. Not sure why he did that. Wasn't even close to making an overtake, and I was not going to try it from way back there, but took a defensive line, cost him some time, and you can see the result here now as we jump a little further into lap number 2. So going into the end of lap number 2, heading into the chicane, you can see how much time we were able to gain on the Colombian. Now we are on his back bumper, staying on the slipstream. We are pulling away from the third place driver, as he is basically non-existent to this battle now, as we are now crossing the start finish line onto the final lap. On the slipstream here, he decides to take us to the inside. Now he's deciding to take us to the outside. We're just staying right behind him as we're staying glued to his slipstream so we can close the gap even more as we head into turn number 1. Off of turn number 2 now, you can see it, the gap is closing, so we do have a chance to possibly make an overtake going into the hairpin if we could just navigate our way through the S's and Degners without any incidents here as we're heading to the final part of the S's. See, he gets a very narrow entrance onto the final part, and that kind of disrupts him on this left-hander going into a Dunlop curve. We get a really late apex there as he goes kind of wide. Luckily he didn't go too wide, as that can easily take you out into the gravel trap, but again, no one really gained anything there going to the S's, and we didn't lose anything, so that's really good. So we now head out of Degner 2. Going out of Degner 2, we just go a little bit too wide. That's going to cost us about a tenth there as we head into the hairpin, so too far back to make any type of move going into the hairpin. The Colombian takes a kind of defensive line, but doesn't affect him too much now as we come out of the corner, and still right behind him here as we head into Spoon Curve. So just again staying in the slipstream here as we now head into the final part of the final lap. Going into 130R for the final time. Can we make up any time here, as we're going to have to make the most desperate lunge of the century going into the final chicane. Braking right before the 100-meter board. We do go for the lunge, but unfortunately just too far back to make anything happen here. And just like the race previous, we are going to finish this race in second place right behind the Colombian. Deja vu once again. Can we do anything on the next and final race here, since we have been getting closer and closer to the Colombian, as this time we only lost the race by about 0.6 of a second? Did we get good enough to make the overtake now? Let's jump into the third race and find out. Jumping into our third race now, a little bit different of scenery now as we have the Colombian right ahead of us, but not only that, we have an American in first place. So this is going to be an interesting race as we got basically a wrench thrown into our strategy here. So we can't just decide to overtake the Colombian. We have to do 2 overtakes if we want to win this race, since we are starting in third place. Coming out of the second corner now, we're able to close up the gap ever so slightly on the Colombian, but you can see the 3 of us are starting to pull away from 4th place just a little bit as we head into the S's for the first time. And in doing so here, we are able to just stay in each other's slipstream, just pull away. And you can see now that the 4th place car is starting to get smaller and smaller on my rearview mirrors. He's starting to get a little bit of pressure from the 5th place driver. So doing a little 3-car breakaway as we head into Dunlop Curve and into Degner 1 and Degner 2. Can we keep up with these 2 cars right ahead of us, or allow them to fight with each other so that we can stay right behind them, look for a mistake, and then try to overtake both of them when the chance is there, as we now jump a little further into lap number 1. So on the chicane for the first time on this race, you can see that the American overdrives the corner, and the Colombian was able to gain a ton of time now as he is all over his rear bumper going into the final corner. Crossing the start finish line to lead us into lap number 2. The Colombian is now starting to follow the American as he's snaking his way down the straight, trying to break the toe. And in doing so, we have to follow also. We lose a little bit of time, but the Colombian is now trying to make a move onto the inside. Thinks of it twice and thinks it's a little too early in the race to make the move. So he decides to just back out of the move and stay right behind the American as we head into the S's. So drama is now starting to heat up here as we have this new player in this battle for the win. And you can see it's still a 3-car race as 4th place is nowhere to be found on the mirror. So can we keep up with these 2 guys so that we can make an overtake in case if they make mistakes, or if we're able to just stay right behind them and just try to take them one by one. But it doesn't look like that's going to be possible here, as we have to just wait for the mistakes to happen, since we do only have about a lap and a half left coming out of Dunlop Curve. So on Degner 1 and Degner 2, this has been a really good spot for us as we are now coming out Degner 2. Things are starting to heat up here.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Was that part of the script? No? Oh, okay. Well, I guess that was not supposed to happen, as the Colombian gets RKO'd by the barrier. Nothing really happens for the end of lap number 2 and most of lap number 3 as we are now coming into 130R. Things got a little bit boring here, so I decided to make some artificial drama as we come out of 130R. We go onto the green spot of the right hand side. We go into the grass. We miss our braking point, miss our first apex, get into the green stuff, get very loose, miss our second apex, and now it's going to be a drag race between us and 3rd place. Who's going to get the 2nd place position here, since we couldn't get 1st place right here? Going across the start finish line, we finished this race in 2nd place, about 700 of a second ahead of the Canadian in 3rd place. And unfortunately for us, that is 3 second places in a row. We cannot get a win here at Suzuka Circuit. So still hunting our very first win here for the week. Unfortunately, this was not the video that was going to show the win here, as we got 3 second places in a row. Very, very frustrating, especially because we are ranked number 1 in this lobby, and we couldn't pull off the win here for this race as we lost to the Colombian and another fellow American. So this has been a really interesting race because, again, we just haven't been able to get the win. But not only that, it's really difficult to make overtakes on this racetrack, especially with these cars, and everyone uses the front wheel drive cars, so it's basically become a front wheel drive championship at Suzuka Circuit. So it's basically equal along the entire grid. But let me know how you guys' week is going around this track. Have you guys been preferring this race over Daily Race C? Let me know in the comments down below. If you guys reached all the way to the end of this video, I'm guessing you guys really liked the video, and if you guys did, please subscribe and leave a like on the video, as it really helps out the channel when you guys do so. And if you guys want to catch more of me, I hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace out.